Good day, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of H2OPE. I'm your host, Jacoby, Shemson, Garay, and I couldn't be more excited to embark on this journey with all of you. Before we dive in, you might be wondering, what is H2OPE all about? Well, this podcast is dedicated to exploring the surrounding issues around SDG 6 clean water and sanitation, and how we, especially the youth like you and like me, could actively contribute to its success. Our name H2O comes from two key terms: H2O, the chemical mixture for water, and hope, a powerful force that turns the seemingly impossible into something possible. When combined, H2O serves as a reminder, or rather, no, a promise, for a world where hope is present and everyone has access to clean water: the rich and the poor, the urban and the rural communities, everyone. For today's episode, we'll be targeting on Target Indicator 6.4 of SDG 6, which aims to increase water use and efficiency across all sectors and ensure sustainable withdrawal of and supply of fresh water. But why did we choose this top target? Water is something many of us, without a second thought, need. Yet for millions, especially those in rural communities, it's a privilege. Access to clean, safe, and reliable water remains a daily challenge. This issue is known as water scarcity, where access to water is restrained. It stems from multiple factors, including water degradation, where where pollution and overuse diminish available resources, outdated and underdeveloped infrastructure, making clean water inaccessible to many, and the increasing threat of climate change and natural disasters. In developing countries like the Philippines, these challenges are even more severe, leaving many communities struggling to secure a basic human necessity. To give us a clearer picture of water scarcity both on a global and a national scale, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Miss Aimi.
So, water scarcity is a growing crisis both globally and nationally, affecting billions of people. In a global context, approximately 2 to 3 billion people live in countries where water supply is insufficient, lacks access to safely managed drinking water services, and experience water shortages, posing severe risks to livelihood, including food security and access to electricity. Water scarcity isn't just a problem in dry regions. It happens even in countries with plenty of water. Poor infrastructure, pollution, and mismanagement mean that even where water exists, people still struggle to access it. Now, on a national scale, according to UN and UNICEF data, 53% of households in the Philippines lack access to safely managed water supply, and 39% lack safe sanitation. Water shortages are also common in many parts of the Philippines, leading to frequent water supply shutdowns in order to conserve resources. Furthermore, 6 to 8 months of the year are largely dry, and during these months, water shortages occur, leaving people to rely on drinking sources that may not be safe. Such insufficient and intermittent water supply in the country, even globally, present very serious consequences to the public health.
Thank you for those valuable insights, Aimi. Now that we've established the context of water scarcity in both a global and a national level, let's bring it a little bit closer to home. When we think about rural areas in the Philippines, a major island comes to mind: Mindanao, a region rich in culture, diversity, and natural beauty. But beyond its vast resources, Mindanao still faces a harsh reality. Water scarcity remains a challenge for many communities. I remember feeling even more dedicated to take action when we were doing our information dig in MIL. One article in particular stood out to me: It discussed how water played a key role in resolving a conflict within a community in Mindanao. This really struck a chord because it showed just how essential water is, not just for survival, but for the hope of a Mindanao connected in peace, unity, and progress. To shed more light on how water scarcity directly affects the people of Mindanao and how it started, I'd like to pass the mic to Anna, who will break it down for us.
Uh, Hello everyone. So I will be talking about the in the Mindanao context. So in my research and findings, I have seen two main causes on why there is water scarcity in rural areas. First up is the climate change and extreme weather. So in the changing of climate patterns have led to unpredictable rainfall, where some areas experience prolonged dry spells, making it difficult to replenish their groundwaters and rivers, especially when this is their main resource or source of water. And there's also the El Nino effects, where during El Nino events, many rivers and wells and reservoirs dry up, forcing communities to rely on unsafe water sources. And the farmers also here suffer from crop failures due to lack of irrigation. Second is the poor infrastructure and water management, where a lot of rural communities lack proper water systems as they still depend on untreated wells, rainwater collection, or distant rivers for their water supply, without any pipes or filtration, where this leads to their water to often being unsafe and undrinkable. And there's also limited government support, where there are budget constraints, corruption, and many mismanagement, where many water projects are left unfinished or failed due to poor maintenance. Some communities here receive water assistance only during emergencies, so it's really saddening for them that they only receive a few help from the government. And so this leads us to water scarcity in rural in Mindanao really threatens their health, food security, and livelihoods. And it is dependent of them to that we need to address this crisis as it requires better water management, infrastructure investment, and conflict resolution efforts. As without any action, the problem will only worsen and worsen, affecting millions of Filipinos in rural and in both rural communities and here in the cities.
Wow, Anna, that was truly enlightening and truly saddening also. Your explanation really gave me, and of course, our dear viewers, a deeper understanding of where water crisis in Mindanao rather started and the immense challenges its community faces. Now that we've explored the cause, it's time to delve deeper into the effects. To help us understand this further, I am Alexandra with you.
Hi, Jacoby. So, understanding the causes of water scarcity is crucial, but just as important as recognizing its devastating effects. This issue doesn't stop at just the lack of access, it ripples through every aspect of our life, such as impacting health, education, livelihoods, and even the stability of entire communities. Marginalized communities suffer the most because obtaining clean water is incredibly difficult. Water is a fundamental necessity. We all use it every day for drinking, cooking, cleaning, bathing, gardening, and sanitation. But when clean water is scarce, desperation sets in. People are often left with no choice but to use water from unsafe, contaminated sources, leading to severe health problems like cholera and typhoid. Prolonged exposure to unsanitary water can also cause malnutrition, making individuals, especially children, more vulnerable to diseases. The burden doesn't stop there. With rising health concerns, health concerns come increased medical expenses, further trapping families in poverty.
That's heartbreaking, Sandra. Have you observed the impact of this issue in real life or practical applications?
Yes, definitely. In many rural communities, most residents rely on farming for their livelihood. Water scarcity directly affects their ability to grow crops, Without sufficient water, plants wither and die, leading to the event na nalulugi ang farmers. They work tirelessly, yet without access to water, their efforts often go to waste. This only deepens their struggles, making it harder for them to provide for their families. On top of that, long working hours under harsh conditions and the ever present threat of wildlife make farming an even greater challenge. As this cycle continues, hope begins to fade. Communities are left struggling not just for the water but also for survival.
That's a sobering reality, Alexandra. Coming from a rural province myself, I personally witnessed the lack of clean water and how it leads to outbreaks such as dengue fever and malnutrition among many impoverished families in my own community. It's clear that water scarcity isn't just an inconvenience. It's a problem that promotes social inequality and conflicts as members of communities compete to gain access for water. Now that we understand the cause and effect of water scarcity, a bigger question remains. Why does the water crisis persist? And why isn't access to such a basic necessity such as water a top priority for everyone? Here I have Jade to explain how the ongoing water crisis persists within rural Mindanao. Good day, Jade. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jacoby.
Good. That's good. Now, moving on to the topic of our discussion, despite knowing all the cause and effects, why do you think the issue of water crisis or water scarcity in Mindanao is still prevalent?
The underdeveloped and aging water supply systems in Mindanao is due to the lack of planning and corruption in key areas. Society isn't focusing on the sustainability of these water systems, leading to them being easily affected by crisis. And in times of crisis, have you noticed how water is always being emphasized as the most important resource? Our society isn't holding the government accountable enough for the proper planning of our water supply, as we are to focus on other issues. Local and national authorities also struggle to work together, making it hard to manage water effectively. Many rural communities don't have enough education about water conservation, leading to wasteful practices. These factors, along with environmental damage and climate change, have created a cycle where water scarcity persists, affecting generations of people and inflicting generations of despair in turn.
Well, listening to your in-depth explanation, Jade, I realized something crucial. The lack of awareness. Many people don't even recognize the severity of this crisis, wherein they take water for granted. We have to realize that water isn't a privilege, it's a right, but for some, it's still a luxury. So, dear viewers, let's take action. Advocate for clean water sources, educate your peers and loved ones about the ongoing water scarcity crisis in rural areas, and be a voice for change. To help us explore more potential solutions, I'm calling on the double A team, Anna and Alexandra, to shed light on how we can further tackle this urgent issue.
So one of the solutions that I thought of is government and policy interventions, as they are very important to help rural communities have more water supplies. So first up is barangay level water committees, as it is important to train local leaders to oversee water distribution, maintenance, and sanitation programs. And it is also important to increase the government investment, as allocating more funds for rural water infrastructure development, especially in conflict affected and indigenous communities, will help those communities thrive more and receive the water they are necessarily needed in. And lastly, it is also important to have an education or community involvement in these rural communities, as teaching households and schools how to conserve water through simple habits like using water efficient appliances and preventing waste is very important, as these generations usually take things for granted, and it is important for us to learn importance and the importance of water.
I really agree with your points, Anna, especially the one where like we should um invest more in conflict-driven areas since um we do know that one of the main facts on why communities have conflict is because of the lack of resources leading to competition. And so when we invest more, we get a more thriving community and we get a more unified Mindanao. So thank you for that insightful take. Now, Sandra, could you share some concrete solutions to address this issue?
So some solutions that I can think of on this problem includes rainwater harvesting, improved water infrastructures, and education and awareness campaign. Collecting and storing rainwater is a sustainable water source because it costs low and you can save up a lot for future use. Depending on the amount of water na you saved, you can probably have stock for the entire week or so. Building or upgrading water supply systems, including pipelines, wells, and reservoirs, is very beneficial because it ensures a consistent and reliable water supply to underserved regions. But most importantly, having an education and awareness campaign about the use of water, proper sanitation, and waterborne diseases can help everyone, particularly those who lives in marginalized region or communities, to know what to do and not to avoid getting sick and unhealthy by drinking unsanitized water.
Those were really interesting takes, Alexandra. I think most of them are applicable talaga. Like, they're really helpful, especially the rain harvesting one. And while I do see like a lot of people doing it, we also need to keep in mind like proper filtration of water. Like, don't just drink it. By the way, this is a disclaimer, guys, because like um rainwater still needs filtration because we need sanitary source. Wow, that was such an insightful discussion. Anna and Alexandra, thank you for shedding light on the different ways we can combat water scarcity and move towards a more sustainable and water secure future. Well then, today's discussion has made one thing clear. Water is more than just a need. It is hope. Hope for better health, thriving communities, livelihood, education, and peace. To summarize everything in today's podcast episode before ending, Aimi highlighted how millions, especially in the Philippines, still face the threat of water scarcity. Anna explains its causes within rural Mindanao, including natural disasters and aging or underdeveloped infrastructure. Alexandra shed some light on its social, economic, and physical toll on the residents, while Jade exposed the systemic failure that allows it to persist. Finally, Anna and Alexandra shared some ways we can take action to address this crisis. Remember, when communities gain access to clean and sustainable water sources, they gain more than just survival. They gain a future where their children can grow up healthy, farmers can irrigate their land, and families no longer have to choose between basic human need and their safety. Water is life, and life is hope. But hope alone is not enough. It must be backed up by action. Let's turn our hope into reality. Because when we come together, we don't just dream of a water secure world, we create it. Before ending this episode, I would like to thank our dear guest speakers for their time and cooperation, our editor for her continuous effort, and of course you, our dear viewers. This has been H2OPE, and I'm your host, Jacoby, Shemson, and Garay. And remember, a community without water is a community with a dried out future. Thank you for joining us once again, and I hope you have a good day.